Alright, so this video is actually going to be kind of like an update video to one of the other ones that I did, where really the objective here is to clean a backdrop from a photo studio that, you know, has signs of some wear and tear, some, you know, crinkles, but primarily the thing that I have to work with is, you know, footprints or scuff marks from shoes, especially on white backgrounds. And so before, I used to take this into Photoshop and effectively use a tool, a noise tool, funnily enough, to actually smooth out the background and then create a mask and, you know, kind of brush everything out of the way. And that worked really well. And it got a lot better when Photoshop added AI kind of masking, you know, select subject or select background. But now lots of these tools actually exist directly inside of Lightroom, which I much prefer because it means that I'm not taking the image outside of Lightroom and creating a giant, you know, TIFF file, for example, or a PSD file. It's all happening in Lightroom and it's all non-destructive. And so let me guide you through exactly what it is that I'm doing now. And the great thing is this is AI masking and you can apply it to a ton of pictures all at once. And so this should shorten the workflow significantly. But here we go. Here's an image. This is unedited. It is, you can see, fine. Like lighting and everything's okay, but the backdrop is clearly a mess. I've got some, what's this, like fluff down here, maybe some cotton. There's obviously a lot of footprints and there's a bit of kind of crinkling on the background a little bit because of the way it was stored for a period of time. And so, you know, to get this up to a high standard where everything looks much cleaner and much nicer. Like I said, normally would have taken a lot more time in Photoshop, but now we're going to do this directly inside of Lightroom using the tools that are directly available to us here. So first things first, I'm going to go to my develop module and using the mask tool here. So here you have masks, and if we go ahead and press that, we've got a number of options. The person selection tool is really cool. That's great for applying, you know, skin smoothing, for example, or adjustments to hair and all the other things. But really for this demo, I don't want to talk about the other masking there. I just want to focus on cleaning the background up. So, I mean, what I want to do is go ahead and press background. And what Lightroom is going to do is do its best to detect the background. And I think it did a very good job, and it did it very quick. That's the other thing. When you select background as the masking option, it's often a lot quicker than, you know, individual parts of people and then kind of inverting that. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the overlay. The reason is I want to see this as it's going to come out. And let's just increase the brightness a little bit, not too much. I don't want to change the background too much. And if you go too far with these sliders, you start to see that even though that's pretty decent, you can feel that it's kind of cut out. I want to create this very natural, very clean, and very realistically unedited feel to this image. And so all I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to scroll down here until I get to my other controls, and still within the masking section, I'm going to select texture, and I'm going to drag that right down. Now let's just make sure that we're running a comparison so we can see the difference. Immediately that's softened up these blemishes and you can see that it looks a lot better. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease my clarity a little bit, and you'll see that that cleans up the background even more. Now it's not perfect. There are still going to be areas that we need to edit, but when you compare the two, you can see that immediately, and if we just hide this out of the way, our crinkly background is pretty much entirely gone. And all of those smudges and lines and little bits and pieces that were kind of obstructing us, let's just get a closer look here. They're practically gone. I mean, look, it's very effective. And the good thing is it hasn't gone crazy around the hair. You see the hair still looks pretty good. In fact, if anything, it's kind of helped a little bit with some of the flyaways. They're much more or less pronounced now, but it does keep some of the texture here. And if I wanted to, and it's very easy to do, I can come in here and kind of exclude stuff from the mask entirely and kind of remove it and just keep it original, let's say. But let's continue with this image. So the other thing I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to get rid of this mark, and I'm just going to press here, and this is just our simple healing tool, and I'm not a remove tool rather, and I'm not using generative AI for this because we're with a clean background. If this was more complicated, then generative AI is also very, very powerful, but let's go ahead and get rid of that. What else do we have? I think that's pretty much it for the messy stuff. So how do I want to deal with, you know, the fact that there are still signs of something here, like especially here, right? Again, it's massively better than what it was, but how am I going to tackle that? There's a couple of ways of doing it. And so one way that we already saw was to kind of go back into our masks here, and you see that we had some other controls here. I can certainly dehaze this, and that really cleans it up too. You'll see that's worked really well, but something it's doing, it's very hard to notice until you know, kind of look at the image again. It's adding a little bit of like a halo or like a glow. Even in this case, it's more of a shadow around the subject. And yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but it does kind of feel like there's a drop shadow now, which of course is not there. So I can bring this down a bit and make it a little bit more acceptable. As I do this, I'm starting to see obviously those marks are coming back. So that's one way of doing it. I probably would add a little bit of dehaze here. Now, another thing to mention, this doesn't work on absolutely every background. If you have let's say a yellow background and you apply dehaze to it, you're going to find that it's going to lighten the color of that background as well, for example. Very easy to fix. You just go back in and you change your saturation, for example. You can fix it very easy like that, but just something to be aware of. Anyway, so this is already looking pretty good, but what I want to do now is I want to add an extra mask here. So I'm gonna press M for my mask tool, and this is a gradiated mask, right? So I forget what it's called right now. It is called a linear gradient. So that's, yeah, muscle memory, M. And what that's going to allow me to do is kind of drag up from the bottom, and I'm effectively going to pronounce this a little bit more by going in here again. Let me just go ahead and turn off my my overlay just so we can see what we're doing. Gonna go to texture, bring that down again. You see we are making a small difference. It's hard to see, but let's do it in clarity, right down again. And now I think we're close to being done. I can dehaze that a bit more if I want to. And I think, yeah, I think that's pretty good. But there's only one problem here. The gradiated mask, that kind of linear gradient mask, it doesn't take into account the subject anymore. It's doing this universally, and that's cool. I mean, if I want to, I can, punch in some extra light, for example, bring a bit of exposure up here to get that more clean. In fact, I'm gonna leave it like that. But I want to make sure that we're not affecting the subject. Obviously, if this mask was here, we'd see that, hands are going soft. There's less detail in the clothing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go into this mask here that I've got selected, and I'm going to press subtract. And I'm just going to say select people or select subject. I'm going to go ahead and say select subject. And it's just literally selected the model here and subtracted them from the mask. And I don't know how easy this is going to be to see because it's already looking pretty good. But if I zoom in, let's see here. Look at the hand. And if I now turn that off, you see that there is actually some difference there between before and after when I subtracted the subject. And honestly, that is pretty much it. In fact, this video was longer just because I spoke about it. Once you get into a pattern and you want to do this across maybe 20, 30 pictures that are basically the same, should we say, problem with the background, for example, you can just copy those masks just like this. And I would say that 95% of the time, it's going to nail it. You may need to go in and tweak it just a little bit, but not significantly enough that it would, take up too much of your time. But realistically, that's all that's to it now. Like I said, it used to be a lot more complicated. It used to be that you had to go in and really, brush out the model separately and be really careful with it. Now it's, you just AI mask the background, you make your adjustments, and it's done. And so, yeah, this is a very short and hopefully very helpful video. Hopefully this is going to speed up your workflow. I know it certainly has mine. And yeah, well, thanks for watching it. And good luck with your edits. Thank you. Bye-bye.